I'm going to call to order the March 4th meeting of the Heritage Preservation Board. Usually what we do first is just introduce ourselves. We'll start at the far end with Ms. Yothers.
Cornell, member.
Kimberly, other secretary to the board.
Laura Milford. Harold Johnson, member.
Cindy Terrapini, I'm a member and the current chairman.
Page member.
Patrick Perez, board attorney.
Pat McNeese, principal planner.
Okay, may we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Terrapini,
Present.
Mrs. Johnson,
Here.
Ms. Page,
Here.
Ms. Milford,
Here.
Ms. Cornell.
Here.
We have 5 members present, which is more than a quorum. First, before we get going, I'd like to ask everybody to please turn off your phones or put them on silent, please, so they don't interrupt the meeting, if you wouldn't mind. We do operate somewhat informally, but we have a couple of basic rules. One is that you have to come to the podium and state your name and address when it comes to your case or when you would like to say something, because we've got to record everything for the minutes. But we don't have any time limits, so you can take as long as you need to explain your application. And usually people don't get redundant, but if they do, then I get the hook out. Other than that, we like for people to take whatever time you need to explain your application. And our first item of business is public comments. This is for anything that's not on the agenda. So if there's anyone here that wants to speak to something other than the 2 applications on the agenda, now's your time to come forward. Okay, seeing no one rise, we'll move on to approval of the minutes of the February 4th, 2019 meeting. Are there any revisions to be noted to the February 4th meeting?
No, I didn't see any.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I move that the minutes from February 4th be approved as submitted.
Ms. Page made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Johnson. Any further conversation about the minutes? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Cornell,
Yeah.
Ms. Milford,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Page,
Yes.
Ms. Terrapini.
Yes. The motion passes 5-0 to approve the minutes as written. Mr. Perez?
This is a quasi-judicial proceeding where the Heritage Preservation Board acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At a quasi-judicial hearing, it is not the board's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the board is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings of fact to previously established criteria contained in the Code of Ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. The board may only consider evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find against the applicant. Are there any members of the board wishing to disclose any ex parte communication or conflicts of interest? If anyone is speaking tonight, if they could please stand to be sworn in. Even if you think you may speak, if you better just stand up and raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So sworn.
Mr. Perez? Our first application tonight is application 1910 for 114 South Pinellas Avenue. It's placement of a new sign on a contributing property. Before we start on this, if you would indulge me, I think the owner is shown incorrectly on this, and the only reason I know that is that for a couple reasons. One, I looked on the property appraiser's website, and then I dug a little further into the deed. And the reason I dug into it is I know that the property to the north, the Coca-Cola building, is owned by my son as one partner in the T&Y Partners LLC that you mentioned. I was pretty sure they had not purchased the Allstate building. So I'll pass this down. Here's the deed. If you look at the deed, it says they only bought lot 3, T&Y Partners, Partners. And lot 2 is the building that is Mr. Sarukis, are you Mr. Sarukis? Okay. Okay. No, It's no problem with moving the application forward. I just, because my son is the PNY Partners, I just wanted to get that clear on the record that, that the property if you looked at the property appraiser, you would think that that's what it is, but when you put the deed, it's clear that this piece, the Allstate building, for lack of a better term, is not owned by PNY Partners.
Okay.
I just want
Yeah,
to make sure
and this is the deed that was submitted with the application, correct?
No, I pulled that deed off the property
Oh, okay.
appraisers. I didn't print everything. I printed the staff report and the application. I don't think I printed the deed.
Actually, it is.
It is the same one? Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't check that. Thank you for the correction. So let's let the record reflect the correct owner.
Okay, so I just didn't want there to be any
Yes.
confusion that
Thank
I
you.
had a conflict of interest or any interest in the property at all, which I do not. So, now I'm sorry with all that conversation. Ms. McNeese, would you like to, give us a summary of the application?
Sure. Again, this is a request for a certificate of approval to place a new sign at this contributing property at 114 South Pinellas Avenue. The zoning is T5D. The architectural style on the master site file form is the mission style. And this applicant, Mr. Bodak of Allstate Insurance, is applying to place a new sign at this property. The main building is of mission-style architecture. According to that file, I didn't want to say for sure, but it appears to me that the applicant is occupying the southern end of that property that is designated as historic. And it appears that that space is not part of the original structure, and it does not seem to be called out on the form, and it doesn't include any of the architectural details also described on the form. I believe it might be the 1961 edition that's shown on that property. So with respect to the review criteria, going on to page 3 of the staff report, this is a simple sign of illuminated channel letters, and it is proposed to be placed on the flat, unadorned part of the facade of the building above the storefront doorway, as described in your design guidelines. And it will not interfere with the historical character or the other notable architectural features of the property. It appears to conform with the requirements of the Land Development Code and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And staff is recommending approval of this application to place a new sign at this contributing property. This application was properly noticed and no responses were received. Are there any questions?
I guess maybe I'll ask this question before, and then we'll let the applicant come up. I'm looking at the map that you prepared, Ms. McNeese. It looks like the Coca-Cola building is 50 feet wide, and the balance, the Allstate portion, is only 21 or so feet wide, or with frontage on Pinellas. But yet the application or the drawing, this sign sketch shows the frontage as 50 feet. And that makes, at 50 feet, an 8-foot long, almost 9-foot long sign might be one thing, but a 9-foot sign on a 21-foot facade is kind of big.
Yeah, I did notice that as well. This sign would have to meet the size requirements for the historical district. And so it would have to comply to those size requirements. I did not. I looked at the property appraiser's site, but I did not. I wanted to, with this kind of stuff with signs, a lot of times looking at that is not sufficient. You have to go out to the site or talk with the applicant. I didn't have a chance to do that. It's not. I probably should have brought the calculations with me, but it's not vastly over the historic restriction, but it will need to comply with that size, whatever the building frontage is.
Well, I guess, since I don't know the sign code, what what is the size that they could put in the sign code regardless of, even though the designs, how it fits into the historic district's another issue. I'm just kind of curious. It seems if it's by the frontage and if it was calculated against the 50 feet, then I'm just wondering if it's too big.
The allowable area for the sign in the historic district is 0.5 square feet per linear feet of building frontage, which this sign complies with, but if the building frontage is incorrect in the application, then it will have to be reduced if it's over the size requirement.
So in this case, the building frontage is 21 feet, so they could have 11 and a half feet signage?
Square feet of copy on the sign.
Oh,
This
square
is a
feet of copy.
Basically, and this is a channel letter sign, so yeah.
So this sign is drawn as 8'10" by, call it 2 feet, so 8 times 2 is 16. So that's, if I'm doing the math right, y'all please correct me, because I've been known to not do math right. It's not my strong suit, but if I'm reading this design, it's 8'10", so I just called it 8. Could call it 9, but let's call it 8. 8 times 2 is 16, which would be larger than the 0.5 per linear foot of building frontage.
That's correct, and the applicant will have to comply with the regulations. This was not, the applicant did apply for a sign, and the application was held pending review by this board. I did not follow up to see, at that point, whether the 50-foot frontage was correct, not correct, and all that, because if the design is not satisfactory, there's no point in doing all that.
I see.
If you have another design coming back, it can certainly be, and the staff report says that it appears to meet the land development code because of the question in my mind. It will have to meet the land development code when it's issued.
Okay. Other questions by the board before we hear from the ready to hear from the applicant? Is the applicant here? Yes. You want to come to the dais, please? The podium and give us your name and address for the record?
Do you want the address of the property or where I live?
Whichever you prefer.
Okay. My name is Seth Bodak. The property that I'm leasing right now that I'm trying to put a sign on is 114 South Pinellas, right here in Tarpon, downtown. You just need anything from me? I don't know exactly what to say. I'm going to be here for a long time. I'm just trying to do business as an Allstate insurance company. I have 2 young kids, so I'm definitely not going anywhere, and I'm just trying to, advertise correctly, but stay within how it needs to be, So that's about it for me. You're 100% true on the split and all that. I think Pinellas County actually was the one that kind of messed up the deed and stuff like that, so. I don't know. Any questions for me?
Sorry, I'm being asked to speak closer to the mic. Sorry about that.
Oh, I do have a picture of what's up there now if you want to see it.
Well, you have a temporary sign up there now, right?
Yeah, there's a big blue tarp, so I'm definitely trying to get rid of that as soon as possible.
Well, you've heard the conversation that we were having about the size. Clearly it's what your sign company drew. Perhaps they didn't understand the regs. Perhaps they're going off the 50 feet. They clearly have to reduce the size of the sign.
And so you said it was square footage had to be essentially half of
The linear
the
footage.
linear.
Right. So if the
linear
linear front
frontage.
footage is 21 feet in linear, the frontage, then you get half of that in square feet for the sign. So 21 in half is,
So it's 11 square feet.
10 and a half square feet.
Okay.
And this is it's more like 18 square feet. 9 times 2 is,
And just just for you, we will verify that frontage with you.
Okay.
Because you, as we all know, you cannot depend on that property appraiser's site. That's a good estimate, but
Okay.
if 50 is not correct, then we need to go. I would physically measure it and get,
Okay.
get the correct frontage.
I mean,
So we'll work with you on that.
I'm just trying to think, because if it's going to be 2 feet high, that's like 5.5 wide. So I don't know.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, I guess.
Ms. Denise, how do you calculate the sign size if you do a sign on an awning? Is it calculated the same way?
No.
I'm just
This-
wondering if that
this-
would be if that would be more liberal for him, because frankly, I think a awning sign would be better on this building. There's none of the other businesses there have a sign attached there. It's really not a historic method of signage. So, I mean, if you did an awning and you can get a little more square feet, I'm all for it. I think an awning would be better. It would kind of announce the entry a little better, but, I'm not trying to tell you, I'm not telling you have to do that, but I'm hoping maybe it gets you a little more square footage.
We actually had an awning there. Well, the frame for it that was all busted up. So we took that down previously because it was all busted up, and the city asked us to take it down or remedy it, which we weren't going to remedy it at the time because we didn't know what was going on. But, yeah.
Does the awning sign get them any more?
May not exceed, the awning, one sign may extend vertically below a marquee or awning, must be oriented perpendicular to the street, may not exceed 2 feet by 6 feet. And awning signs consisting of one line of letters not exceeding 12 inches in height. So it probably, I'm going to say, may not get you more.
So the signage on the awning can only be 12 inches tall?
Correct.
But there's no maximum on the length of it? Doesn't appear.
No, the actual awning may not exceed 2 by 6, nor may exceed the depth. Let's see. One sign may extend vertically below a marquee or awning, must be oriented perpendicular to the street or building frontage. It may not exceed 2 feet by 6 feet.
I think that's the blade, those are the blade signs that hang down, like as you're walking down the street, and they are like I said, perpendicular to the road, so as you're walking the sidewalk, you see that sign. If you have an awning, it can be underneath, but I'm talking about can't he build an awning and put the signage on the awning itself?
Yeah.
I think there is
And that's
signage on
the
that.
awning signs consisting of one line of letters not exceeding 12 inches in height may be placed upon hanging border of any awning. So that's the restriction.
So you're saying you'd put like a foot square on the bottom and then have the awning come up from the foot on the bottom? Like the awning would come down off the building like that, and then you'd have like a foot with the letters on the
Correct.
bottom
That
like
would be the hanging border of the awning. Yeah.
Looking at the measurements of the proposal here, the word Allstate is well within the limit. It's 15 inches by 5 feet. It's the logo of the hands that are throwing it out of proportion. Do you have to have both?
Honestly, I don't even remember what it looks like. It's been 5 months. I'm sorry, but I honestly don't even remember the picture. It's been that long since I
Well,
looked
it has
at
the
it.
circle with the hands
Oh, with
in
the
it.
hands in it?
And then it has the word Allstate. The word Allstate, according to the measurements submitted, is well within the restriction.
And
It's-
isn't that what the banner looks like too on the building? Because I thought I saw the hands when I drove by it.
It does have the hands. The banner does now.
Well, that's what's
Banner.
making it so big. The hands are bigger than the word and wide, and it drags out the whole sign. It's the logo that's
Maybe the logo could be
ruining the
smaller.
proportion.
It's up to him. I mean,
I don't know. I'm not sure, because I'm not sure the measurements of what's up there now either.
What's up there now is way, way too big.
It looks way bigger than what was on there, I think. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not against anything. I just don't know to on the fly. I wasn't expecting like a change of size. I guess I thought it would be like a yes or no. So I don't really know. I don't know. I mean, I'm not willing. I mean, I am willing to change or whatever. I don't know. I mean,
It's up to the board. Do you want to go forward with the understanding that it's got to, with the maximum size and make that provision, or do you want it to come back with the
And
sign drawing?
Chair, it does sound like, and staff can correct me if I'm wrong, even if you approve this, he would have to obey the regulations anyway.
Sure, but
So-
normally we see the real size it's going to be, but I mean, there was one solution that was proposed by Mrs. Cornell that you just did the letters, you're pretty darn close to being in compliance, and then you can either reduce the letters smaller and make a smaller hands, or just not do the hands, But I know that these corporations have all sorts of rules for their logos, so I'm not trying to get in the middle of your business, but we're trying to help you
No, I
move
appreciate
forward.
I definitely appreciate that. I like that idea. I think it's fine. And then what I can do is just change the way the lettering is on the windows and maybe put the hand. I mean,
Put the hand on the window.
yeah, it would work with me as long as I can get approval from you guys to do that, and then I can get approval on my side. I'm good to go. I mean, as far as I know.
Because he can still, Ms. McNeese, he can still do window signage in addition to the building signage, right?
That's correct.
So that's another
Yeah, I already had approval to move forward on that piece,
Okay.
but it was just the actual adhering the sign to the building that was still in question.
So how would y'all like to move forward?
I have a question. If you can't get approval from Allstate to do it the way you want to, then he would have to come back again? Or how would that work?
I
What-
think probably if I didn't get approval, I'd probably try to go the awning route. It's not the way I'd like to go, but if they somehow poo-poo it and I have to go back through the whole process, then I would submit something with the awning and could just completely scrap the sign if they're not gonna. I mean, I'm willing to work with y'all because y'all are willing to work with me, and I appreciate that. And for me, it's should be fine. I don't see what they would have a problem with,
With respect to size, there is no variance for the size.
Say
So-
that again, please, because I didn't understand.
If you're asking if Allstate didn't approve it because of the size,
Right,
there is no variance procedure to vary the
okay.
size to make it larger, so he's
He would have
thinking
to-
of other options, and that's what he would have to do.
Okay,
The
then he'd
awning.
bring it back to the board for approval on that, is that what you're saying? If it doesn't meet the criteria and he can't get it approved, he would have to come back for a second time to do that, am I understanding that right?
It depends on what the reason for it not being approved. If it's size, that would not come back here because it is not a criteria this board reviews.
Okay.
They would have to comply with the size or come up with some other design.
Okay.
So I guess I see I'm sorry, did you have anything else you'd like to add, Mr.
No, I'm
Bodine?
good.
So it seems like there's two options. One, we can continue it and he can revise it to show the right size, or we can approve it subject to the maximum size that we understand to be 10.5.
I'm okay with subject to it meeting guidelines.
Okay?
Yeah, I did a quick calculation, and if the hands were shrunk down to the 15 inches of the Allstate, then it would be
You could probably
within.
get there. Okay.
If I could request, if you do make a motion, I would say the size allowable by code, since we don't know
Okay.
the exact
All right.
frontage.
Okay.
I don't know what everybody else thinks, but
Well, well, I'm sorry, I should ask if there are people in the audience, I'm not sure if they're here for that or not. If there's anyone here in the audience that would like to speak to this item, now is your time, an opportunity to come forward. Okay, seeing no one rise, it's back to the board. Motion, you want to make a motion and? I'm ready for a motion whenever you are, ma'am.
let me flip it back.
How do we word?
I make a motion to approve CA 1910, 114 South Pinellas Avenue for the new signage, contingent upon it meeting the guidelines,
I think we need to say contingent upon meeting the sign code,
sign code, yes.
requirements.
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Milford made a motion to approve it, subject to meeting the Land Development Code sign requirements. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Mrs. Cornell. Any further discussion? So the only way this would come back to us, Ms. McNeese, is if he picked a different type of sign
Correct.
attached to the building. If he came back with an awning sign, that would come back, or just, I can't imagine some other type of sign that's not this, he would come back. Otherwise, he would, if he can show you guys that he can meet the maximum size under the sign code, this approval would get him there, and then you guys would administratively review and figure out the right size.
Correct.
Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. We ready for any more conversation about this discussion?
So I'm good to go, and then I can just get with.
Yeah, let us vote, and then we'll
Oh, okay,
then we'll,
sorry.
we'll summarize kind of where we are. So we're ready for a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Cornell?
Yes.
Ms. Milford?
Yes.
Ms. Page?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Terrapini?
Yes. So what passed 5-0 was that that the style and type of sign are approved as you drew it on, as your sign guy drew it, subject to the maximum size requirements of the Land Development Code, which is going to be smaller than what you have.
Okay.
But as long as you can satisfy the staff on the size of it, whether you shrink everything, you shrink just the hands, however that's up to you and the sign guy. As long as you do meet the maximum size, then you can, and they'll work with you with that, and go get your sign guy to get a building.
Awesome. I appreciate everything and working with me. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. Okay, we are now on item number 6, which is application 19-13 for 115 North Gross. It's a re-roof of a single-family home contributing structure. Ms. McNeese.
Okay, this is a replacement of a metal roof with a composition shingle roof at 115 North Gross Avenue. It's a colonial revival structure. It's in the R70A single-family district. And the applicant proposes to completely replace the existing metal roof with the shingle roof on this principal building. The master site file form lists the roof type as metal shingles at the time the form was recorded. And with respect to the review, again, this is colonial revival architecture. The form also notes corner boards and rafter tails as roof ornamentation, and these features will not be disturbed. The shape of the roof will not change, and the guidelines do note that most architectural styles, including this one, use shingles, and the composition shingles are listed as an acceptable replacement material. It is noted that the adjacent residence at 109 North Gross Street, also a contributing structure, also the same style, is roofed with composition shingles. The form notes likely the same builder for that structure as well. Again, the distinctive features that characterize the roof will not be disturbed. The replacement roof does meet the historic guidelines, and it is consistent with the Land Development Code and the Comprehensive Plan. And staff is recommending approval of this application to replace the existing metal roof with a composition shingle roof on the primary contributing structure. This application was properly noticed, and no responses were received.
Any comments or questions from the staff, for the staff? Okay, would the applicant like to come forward?
Good evening. Alan Smith. I'm the homeowner of 115 North Gross Avenue.
Want to tell us a little bit about why you wanted to get the new roof?
Well, one of the reasons is there was an addition that was actually made to the house prior to us owning it. And we've been having some water damage or water leak problems with that roof. I'm not sure if they went through the proper approvals of getting that addition performed. There is the pitch that's not correct on that roof. And so we want to get the work done, but instead of having some of the roof done, we want to go ahead and get all the roof replaced. The original proposal was to do the replacing of the metal with shingle, and then the lower portion of the front half of the house, replacing that with new metal. But I think it was our understanding that we couldn't do a mix of shingle and the metal, so we'll just go with all shingle if that's the only option that we have.
And did you have a sample of the roofing material that you wanted to?
Yes.
Okay. Let the record reflect the applicant brought a sample of the roofing material. Any questions for Mr. Smith?
I just have one question. In the description of proposed work, the last sentence, could you clarify what it says? To replace the roof in entirety and correct work on addition. What, that just seems like.
I'll probably have my roofer or the company that we actually hired to come up here and probably explain that a little bit better. And one quick question I had. So the understanding is correct that we couldn't do a mixed material. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Our guidelines suggest, state that the most appropriate way would be to have one material on the roof.
Okay.
Can you repeat your question? Oh, my name's Isan with Quality Roofing. We're going to be doing the roof replacement.
I was just questioning what the last sentence means. It says correct work on addition. Is that relative to the roof, or is that something else?
I think what it's just stating is that just the material that's going down, it has to abide by Florida product approval. Because the pitch is so low, you cannot install like a metal, you can't do shingles. You have to do the asphalt modified bitumen, which is similar to shingles.
Could you repeat your name for the record, please?
Yes, it's Isan Siddiqui with Quality Roofing.
I'm sorry,
EHSAN, Isan.
I'm sorry. And your last name?
Siddiqui, SIDDIQUI.
Thank you. We just have to get a record of everyone that speaks, so thank you so much.
It's not as common as Alan Smith, right?
That's right, Mr. Smith. Any other comments or questions for the applicant or the Quality Roofing representative? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here that would like to speak on this item for 115 North Gross? Okay, seeing no one rise, it's back to the board. Board, what would you like to do?
I make a motion that the board approves the application for 115 North Gross Avenue as submitted.
Ms. Page has made a motion to approve the application as submitted. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Johnson? Okay, we have a motion and approval, a motion and a second for approval as submitted. Is there any further conversation or discussion? Anything else, ladies? All right, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Cornell?
Yes.
Ms. Milford?
Yes.
Ms. Page?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Terrapini?
Yes, so the motion passes 5-0. You know the drill, just please get a building permit. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming in, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ms. McNeese, did you have any comments? Do you want to talk about, give us an update and briefly about the design guidelines and where we are? Or?
Yeah, first I wanted to notify the board that the Board of Commissioners at their regular meeting of February 26th did overturn your decision on application 1893, which was a demolition of a garage. So I didn't know if you had watched that meeting, but that was the result of that.
I had heard that there was, the applicant did finally get an expert in preservation to appear on their behalf.
The applicant did retain Hoffman Architects, and they submitted a written evaluation of the garage. So
If
that
only
was
they
more
would do that at the
information.
beginning, they could save themselves a lot of trouble. But anyway.
So, Yeah, I just thought with the approaching springtime, and we're already into March, we should perhaps hear something from the state in April or May, hopefully in April, as to where they are with our grant with respect to the legislative appropriation for those grants. So you all had mentioned that maybe in a meeting that wasn't too heavy of an agenda that you might want to start thinking about bringing up a list or discussing different sections that you want to prioritize. That's one approach we could do if you want to start doing that, or just maybe have a discussion amongst yourselves as to what you would like to see us do. Again, this grant follows the state fiscal year. So once it's approved, and the budget is passed, I imagine there's some sort of agreement that you make with the state. I mean, there has to be a grant agreement. So I'm assuming that would have to be executed in July. July 1 is start of their fiscal year. And then we could hopefully immediately put out an RFP. We'd like to have one lined up and ready to go to get that started, because the state would like to see us finish this within a year, their fiscal year, if we can.
And remind me the dollar amount of the grant that was received? Was it, I don't remember.
Let's see, we asked for, okay, so the total amount, I believe, is $118,250. Does that sound right? $18,250 from the state, from the feds, which was the guaranteed amount, and then we were going to get the $100,000 from the state. I'll make sure that's right while you guys talk.
Well, one thought I had, and then I want to open it up to the board, is with that significant of a grant, we definitely would have a significant amount of money to do public outreach and have multiple meetings with, the residential owners, the commercial owners, figure out what they saw was a problem, things that we saw that aren't clear enough or aren't working, or, whatever. There's lots of updates that need to be done. We don't really address hurricane shutters, for example. There's kind of some modern things we haven't addressed in that design guideline. So I would suggest that the first conversation we ought to have would be, process-wise, how does the staff suggest we attack it to be able to ensure that we have some good participation by the residential owners and the commercial owners, along with the board, but maybe in a less formal setting where it's not, sitting up here on the dais. Because I'm sure everybody out there that lives in the district has a problem or an idea that they've come across, and we have quite a few because we've been dealing with it every day. So I guess I'd like to hear from the staff on some ideas for that.
Okay.
Because that, although it's important, it's expensive when you pay consultants to do that. So, you have to be smart about doing it to make sure you get a good turnout from people. But on the other hand, you want to be sure that, it's cost effective. So
Okay.
that would be the first thing, is maybe from you guys to give us some suggestions on how to approach it.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Okay.
Can bring that back, I believe, next meeting, but I'll run that by the boss and see. I think we want to be ready,
Right.
so.
Okay. And I guess we could see how much interest there is in the community, in the district. There might want to be, maybe there's a focus group of property owners, commercial owners, and residential owners that want to work more closely with the consultant and the board as we go through this. I don't know if there's that kind of interest, but I think we should maybe explore it and see if there is. I'm not talking about cast of thousands. I'm thinking, a small focus group of 7, 8, 10 people, something like that, that's still small enough to get around a table together and talk about it. I'm open to other ideas too. I mean, definitely, I know this board has a lot of, everybody's got notes written in their design guidelines, or from the meetings where something just doesn't work and it's not clear. So we probably want to have that kind of a conversation too.
I think it might also be useful to reach out to some of former board members who may also
That's a
have
great
those
idea.
notes in the margin.
That's a great idea. Yeah, if we did like a kickoff meeting with former board members too, that would be great. So you'll come back to the board with that?
Yes, I will,
Kind of a
and I'll,
schedule and a general outline of what
Mhm.
we would do.
yeah, and I'll be sure and coordinate with the people at Department of State on the expectations, and what would be in that grant agreement so that we know what our parameters from their perspective would be, so.
Okay. Other comments? I think that's a really good idea to get other board members. Great.
Yes, good.
Anything else on that topic, Ms. McNeese?
No.
I want to follow up, other board members' comments on that, or we through with that? Okay. I want to follow up on this letter, the conversation we had last month, and then we got a letter from the city attorney. If y'all remember, at our last meeting, we had a conversation about the fact that the code does not appear to allow an approval to be appealed. So, for example, and we keep bringing up, it's the house on Bay Street. So it just says that the Heritage Preservation Board, that if upon an appeal of a Heritage Preservation Board denial, and we had a conversation about it. We asked, Ms. Aguelo said we didn't need a vote, but yet a couple days later she sent a memo saying that she wasn't going to draft it and we would not have it in front of us for this meeting, and so we do not. So I'm kind of wondering, and unfortunately she's not here, but Patrick, maybe you can explain what happened, what's the story here?
No, I'm going to defer to staff on this one.
Okay, yes, so, the way obviously the procedure works, you all do have the ability to recommend changes. Erica did outline that for you, and Patrick can jump in if I misspeak on any of those requirements. The changes that she specifically and you specifically discussed are in the minutes. So those specific changes are in the minutes. The question of where those go and how those are drafted is really something, as far as going forward, that needs to be discussed with, obviously, with staff and the city manager before it gets scheduled. One of the things Erica was not aware of is this pending review and rewrite of design guidelines. Staff envisions that we would take a look at your heritage preservation chapter in the code as well. Whether the consultant does that or we do that as a companion piece as far as taking it to hearing, we felt like rather than piecemealing it, we may want to look at that option. So basically, Erica kind of got a little bit more information after that meeting, and we provided these minutes. She's been able to review these, and hopefully you have as well, as far as your understanding of what that change that you would like would be, and then we could talk about the procedure to move forward on that and other changes that may be necessary. And I mean, she did mention in your discussion some of the ambiguity there in that entire section, so it could be that that and some of the other items that you wanted to look at in that section of the code we could do wholesale. So that's what the current status is.
But as I understand it, those design guidelines review and looking at the code, that's not even gonna start till the fall. So even if a code amendment started in September, it wouldn't get done until November or December this year. So we go in a whole nother year with people who opposed an application that was approved having no recourse except to the courts.
Well, I believe Erica mentioned that you could read the code where they do have recourse, I think.
Well, she's not here to have that conversation, but I've always been taught that the more specific overrules the general, and it's real specific that says within 20 days of a decision to deny. The second paragraph B talks about where which board the appeal goes to. So I don't share her opinion that there's any much ambiguity in there. It's pretty clear that it says 20 days of the decision to deny. That doesn't say, well, maybe appeal, maybe approved. So I really have a philosophical problem that we have not, that we need to deal with this, and we need to deal with it in a timely manner. And I fully support looking at the rest of the code. I think that's a great idea too. There may be other things, but this is a kind of cut and dry item in my mind that, you either think it's right for everybody to have an opportunity to appeal or you don't. And that needs to move forward separate and apart, in my opinion, from other amendments, to the code. So that's just my opinion. I open it up for the board conversation.
I agree.
I can certainly express to the city manager through Heather that you would like this to proceed forward.
I
back
think we
with
ought to, go on record with the motion, because obviously the consensus that we gave her didn't have any, didn't move the project along at all. So, I can't make a motion, but no one wants to make a motion, I'll relinquish the gavel. But I really think we ought to direct the staff to explain how important it is that this amendment be made to allow either an approval or a denial to be appealed, and that it needs to be done as quickly as legally possible because of the due process issue.
Chair, obviously, I'm not going to speak for Erica here, but I will say that the direction to staff will stay the same, that they will be presented to the city manager. And obviously, this board can make recommendations to the code. That is the power of this board. But the procedure that the city manager is going to follow is going to take it up with them and then go up to the legislative
I
body.
understand that, but it's when you have a specific motion from a board, then it's pretty clear what that board's suggestion is to the city manager and the city commission. Because honestly, we don't report to the city manager. We're appointed by the city commission. And it's our responsibility to tell them when we think there's a problem in the code.
Okay.
I had another question too, and then we can come back to whatever the board wants to do with this. When Mr. Perez, when you're here or Ms. Aguelo is here, who do you represent? Do you represent the board? Do you represent the staff? Or do you represent the city at large?
We represent the board.
Represent the board. So the board gave her a consensus to do something and she didn't.
I'm not sure.
That's pretty much what it says in the memo.
Right, but the board,
If she
as you know, the
represents
city
board,
attorney is contracted to the city, so that contract ultimately is to the Board of Commissioners through the CM. So I understand what you're saying. I will certainly express the importance of the amendment that you wish to have go forward. Obviously, as a consensus, I don't know that you need a vote, but
I think if we don't have a
you think
vote,
that
it will get lost.
I will
in
express the
shuffle.
importance of it.
That's up to the board, what y'all want.
So I just want to be clear on something. So as it stands now,
But could you speak a little?
yes, I just want to be clear that as it stands now, if there is there cannot be an appeal of approval at all unless they go through legal litigation. Is that correct?
That's my reading of it.
That is one interpretation of it.
What is another interpretation?
I believe Erica's, I'm not going to speak for her, but I believe Erica's is that she's reading Section 111 in full, whereas Section 111 Part B says appeals from any decision of the Heritage Preservation Board shall be made to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. So
But then she said the language should be changed for clarification.
Correct.
And I think it's a pretty easy fix in the first sentence of the first paragraph A. Today it says, within 20 days of the written decision of the Heritage Preservation Board to deny a certificate of approval, et cetera, et cetera. You add the words to approve or deny.
Right.
And then the line continues on, 20 days of the written decision of the Technical Review Committee to approve or deny. Today it just says deny, because the Technical Review Committee can approve some things that don't come to this board. So if you get approved, someone that gets approved a project at the Technical Review Committee and someone objects to that, they currently don't have the ability to bring it to this board. So again, the approval is, there's no venue for a challenge of an approval. Are you all comfortable with the consensus, or did you want to do a motion, or are we moving on?
I think we should do a motion to, on this Article 7, Section 1111, I'm sorry, 111, whatever you want to call it, appeals of the appendix, as Ms. Terapini stated here. We need a ruling on that.
Sorry, say that again, Ms. Smith?
We need to get some kind of an approval process to get this amended and clarified. I think we should do as you stated. Take a vote on it.
You want to put that in the form of a motion?
Yes. I don't know how you want that worded, just of this Article 7, Section 111.
Maybe it could be something like to add the ability to appeal an approval.
Okay. I make a motion.
And that the amendment be processed as quickly as possible.
Do I have to repeat it that way? I'm not sure I can get it all out. Okay, I'm making a motion to get. I can't even think this. Somebody else do it.
You had it.
I'm making a motion to take a vote on this Article 7, Section 111 to get a denial or approval, to amend the verbiage of this.
Would you like to refer to the minutes? Were the changes specifically described in the minutes acceptable to you?
Okay.
And if they were, you could use that as you.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I personally don't agree with that. I mean, why don't we just, if we leave it just general as to what the issue is you should be able to appeal an approval or deny, either one. And then whatever in this section needs to be revised, if there's more than one section, that's fine. That's what the staff and the attorneys, need to look at it holistically and make sure it is
and that's what
consistent throughout. So however they do that, we could take a look at it.
What's the number again?
It is Section 111, appeals.
Is it a B or an A, or is that just noted?
It's A. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I make a recommendation to take a vote on Article 7, Section 111. Code does not appear to allow approval to be appealed. Ms. Terapini and the attorney represents the board, and would like the motion to add the ability to appeal an approval, and that the amendment should be done as soon as possible.
Yes, I think we should say Article 7, Section 111, Section A, or make a reference to A, Part A. So everything else is good.
Can we amend that
Yeah,
to add a Section A?
Yeah, after that number to say, I think it's Section A or.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
It is Section A.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so I have a motion from Ms. Milford that the code to recommend that Article 7, Section 111A be revised because the code doesn't allow approval to be appealed, and we want to add the ability to appeal an approval. And that amendment should be done, I don't know.
Soon as possible.
As soon as possible. Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
Seconded by Mrs. Page. Any more discussion on this item? Okay, is everyone clear on the motion? All right, roll call vote?
Ms. Cornell,
Yes.
Ms. Milford,
Yes.
Ms. Page,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Terrapini.
Yes. Look forward to seeing that moving forward, because they're, for a degree of fairness. Our next meeting, do we have any further business to come before the board members, staff? Our next meeting is April 1st, April Fool's Day, April 1st. All right? And we have items for that meeting? Okay, so we'll see everybody on April 1st, if there's anything else to come before us. All right, we'll adjourn the meeting now at 7:25. Thank you.